Ashley, Neff. Welcome to That's For Sure podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to be your guest.
Do you remember when and where and the circumstances of how we met? Do you remember?
Church, for sure.
Yes, for sure.
And forgive my memory. Was it on the lawn somewhere?
I think even before then, and you may have totally forgotten, this is my first memory of you.
Okay.
I was college age, 21, 22. I believe you were maybe a senior in high school, teens. And my first time meeting you, I think, was in Mexico on one of the student Mexico
Oh,
led trips because I was a leader. And I have a feeling you were either in my van that I was driving or we were in this similar group when we went down to Mexico for like a teenage week or weekend trip. Do you remember those trips?
okay. Yes. Thank you for refreshing my memory.
It was a long time ago.
Long time ago, but I absolutely remember those Mexicali trips. I loved
Mexicali,
going
that's
down
where,
there.
yes.
Yep. Big campground where everyone from all different churches all around, hundreds of tents were everywhere.
That's right.
And we were just loving on the kiddos down there, which was so much fun.
Tent City. Yeah. So it's hilarious to think about that because the youth pastor at that time at that church, and we will not name his name. He's such a phenomenal guy, but he did not know at the time that I was as young as I was. So I was working on the staff and he just thought I was older. I was working in a different department, but I was volunteering with the high school department. And he thought I was closer to his age, which he's just a few years older, but he didn't realize
Oh
I
my
was maybe 21, 22. And so I was one of the leaders, but that also meant that I was one of the drivers. So here I was, 21, 22 years old, driving a van full of teenagers from Orange County down into the depths of Mexico. And I should not have been doing that because to be on the church driving insurance, you had to be 25 years old.
Oh
So
no.
yes. So I love that I can say I illegally drove teenagers from Orange County, California, down across the border into Mexico. No big deal. Like no big deal. So
Oh my
thankfully
gosh.
all survived and we all had tortillas and had a lot of fun and all is well.
I
But I
love
think
that.
that's how I remember meeting you is on one of those trips. And I want to say you were a senior and he probably thought you were a leader too, because, hilarious. So that's how we
So
met. And
much fun.
I love that story so much. The tent city was just, there's nothing else like it. I mean, what an experience to be with these
Yeah.
hundreds, thousands of other teens from all over the United States on this muddy field in
Oh,
just
oh my
tents.
gosh. And just your love and sacrifice too, to love on us crazy high schoolers.
I'm sure I had
And
no
you
idea what I
did
was getting
that
into.
time.
Oh, such
I didn't
wild
either.
days.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
And so Mexico, I mean, you are well traveled, Ashley. Was that kind of the beginning of your international travels? Had you done any before then? Because you've done a lot since then.
I have. I feel like there probably was a good portion of a few other sprinklings in there that I also did during my high school years, and have been super grateful and fortunate to travel all over the world with my family on my own. I 100% caught the travel and adventure bug from my dad. And I think even if I remember, I went down to Chile when I was in sophomore in high school, and was with EGM down there as they were
Wow.
launching their Chile ministry. For EGM stands for Every Generation Ministries,
Right.
that they help build curriculum and teach Sunday school teachers how to teach it during class. So that was a really neat opportunity. And then yeah, I've so grateful for all that I've done since.
Is there like one or two kind of places that you were like hit your top of this was an
Uh,
incredible experience from your world travels?
Man, to narrow it down to one or two, that's always like so tough. I would have to say I love Peru. Peru is one of my all-time favorite countries.
Mm.
I actually stayed there for a month in between my junior and senior year of college. And when I landed in Peru, 12 hours later, the 8.0 earthquake hit.
Oh,
And so
wow.
it radically changed the entire trip for what I was down there for. And kind of felt like, okay, you clearly wanted me to be here for this. What
Yeah.
are we doing here? So it just
Wow.
always has a soft spot in my heart and loved witnessing Machu Picchu
Mm.
and exploring the markets and the people and learning the culture. Peru is one of my favorite places. And then probably very unexpectedly, I would say Antarctica.
Okay. Wow.
That if someone has a desire to go, I absolutely recommend it. It is one of the coolest places ever. And you think there's a lot of ice, which there is a lot of ice,
Sure.
that how could you enjoy that so much? But every iceberg is a different shape, a
Mm.
different color. Penguins are everywhere. So
Yeah. What's not to love with penguins
what is not to
everywhere?
love? They're my little kindred spirits as they bobble
Yes.
around and then they fall and wipe out and then they pop up like, oh, did anyone witness and see me do that? Nope. Okay, here I go again.
Oh, it's the best.
So I feel like I relate a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. Well, those are two very exciting places. Is there some place that you've not yet been that you are eyeing for in the future that you'd like to go visit?
Norway,
Oh,
Egypt,
yeah,
South Africa.
all the places.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
many. I mean,
yeah,
that's one of those things where I have seen a lot of the world, but also there's so much that I haven't seen yet
sure.
and can't
Yeah.
wait to continue to explore.
South Africa. So I've been twice, but only on like layover. It's like the layover spot to get anywhere else in Africa from you either go through Europe or you go through South Africa. So I've been twice en route to Congo, DRC, and then once to Malawi. It is
Mm,
beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. I've never been to Cape Town, and I've heard that's like a whole nother. Like if you're gonna go, you need to go to
big
Cape Town.
experience. Yeah.
Yes, but Johannesburg and just we went, as a group outside the city, which a city is very much like any major city in the world, but going outside and just seeing how people just are living their lives and
Mhm.
in the most just serene environments. And then on safari, going to a safari and seeing wildlife and the big five. And oh, those are just amazing experiences. So I'm so glad that you've had some some wild opportunities and adventures around the world and more to come. I'm sure more to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But much
Well,
more. I'm excited. On
yes.
my way
Well,
to Kenya this year, so it'll be
are you
great.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's super exciting.
Yeah.
I I just love all of Africa. I've only been to a handful of countries, but I just think it's such a beautiful continent. And I have yet to get to South America. So we'll get there. But I've heard just
When
such
you
beautiful
do,
things.
let me know and I'll try and give you any and all the tips that I
Okay.
have.
I cannot wait. I hopefully when the kids are a tiny bit older, we'll do
Yeah.
a family trip and I will for sure be calling you.
Well, I would actually encourage you, start them young.
True.
A lot of people, I think, avoid that. Actually, if I was to rewind to when I was 4.5, my parents took my brother and we went through the Panama Canal
Oh,
on the
awesome.
boat with them. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, I would
Right.
encourage you to start them young.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to make it happen sooner than later then. I love that. It is such a fun experience. I did not start traveling until I worked at the church that we were part of, and Mexico was my first international experience. Those trips. I think I
Mm,
went 3 times over my time there. And then that is really what jump started my travel bug of, oh, this is cool. Like I love seeing different cultures and eating like authentic food and
yeah,
hearing the language and just meeting such beautiful people. And
yeah,
that's really what jump started it for me was those trips to Mexicali and
yeah.
City. Oh, it's so great. Well, you have lived a life of adventure, but I know you've also lived, like we all have, just a life of some unexpected um, things. Like things don't always go how we think they're going to go when we're in high school and we're in Mexico, or we're in our young 20s and we're
Yeah.
volunteering at a church. Like so many, our lives often take so many left turns that come unexpected to us. And I know you've experienced some of those. And I wonder if you could share with me and with those of us listen, or those that are listening, just what are some of the unexpected, unmet expectations you've experienced in your life? And then as a woman of faith, how have you navigated those?
Wow. Well, I have navigated them really poorly at times and have been growing in navigating them better. I would say from high school, actually, I kind of, in my mind, had my life mapped out where I was going to go to college. I wanted to get married by 24, 27,
Sure.
30, have kids no later than 30 because I wanted to be a young mom,
Mhm.
and I was going to be PTA, orange slices for the soccer field, all the things. So I had my life planned out from graduating high school till I was in my late 30s or 40. And none of that has actually happened. I'm now in my late 30s and still single, never been married, no kids. And so that would be a big thing of I never expected this season of singleness. And with that, I think there's been years prior where that maybe gripped me way different than it does today, because it has given me a wonderful opportunity to see and explore the world and have incredible, rich experiences that I never would have gotten to have had my plan been the one that played out.
Sure.
And I think that I've completely changed where I will be a way different wife and mom today getting married than if 24-year-old Ashley got married and started
Sure.
having kids. And so for that, even I'm super grateful. Um, yeah, I never expected actually to be back in California. So when I left for college, I was gonna be gone. I was not really looking back in the rearview mirror, taking off for college, and God also had a different plan. And he brought me back to California and said, "I'm not done with you there yet." And I told him, "Oh, yes, you are."
Yeah.
And clearly he won. He always will win.
Yeah.
And so I've been back here since I graduated in '08 and tried to leave at other opportunities. Didn't work out. Those doors kind of slammed close on me. And I'm here. I think one of the things is when I look back over my life, most of my life actually has not played out how I expected, and not necessarily in bad ways, or, it's good and bad ways. Because even the place I'm sitting in the middle, right when COVID started, God called me to move out and live on my own, which for me, not what I expected. I love being around people. I love engaging. I love community. I'm an extrovert. I need people. So, in a season of isolation, you're going to make me be more isolated. I don't understand what's going on here. And so I said yes and pursued finding a place, didn't find a place, and God in his wonderful being in the final hour performer brought me this place that I'm sitting in. And so I didn't expect to own my own place, especially before getting married in California either. And this has been nothing but an absolute haven. For me, that is totally God's gift. And yeah, so there's that. I also did not expect to get cancer myself. I was diagnosed in 21. Both of my parents are also survivors. And so I kind of had the family experience, but I never expected for that to be me. Which then I think also was layered in that I, so on the flip side of that, actually, I kind of felt prepared for the journey. And I felt I felt okay knowing I was going to hear it was going to be cancer because I've seen my parents go through it. I knew what to expect. I knew what the journey looked like. I knew what they went through. So it was okay. If you could do this, I could do this.
Hmm.
Kind of let's go.
Yeah.
But then the journey became everything but what I
Hmm.
expected.
Yeah, sure.
Everyone's journeys are also different. And um, a lot of it too is all of the unknown
Hmm.
things that are underneath the surface that actually take place that I wasn't I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those. Those are big things. Singleness, and family and unmet expectation of family and where you're going to live, where you're going to be, what you're going to do, and then cancer on top of that. Those are big things. And I think, uh, you know, for those of us listening, we might not all be able to identify with singleness, or we might not all be able to identify with cancer or, where we're living and that type of thing. However, every single one of us has unmet expectations or has experienced disappointments in life. And every
Mm.
single one of us has these things that happen in our lives that are out of our control that we have to learn how to navigate. And I think from afar, I have watched you navigate various seasons, and you have done it I would say, very well,
Mm.
because these are things that can often, throw us into a big loop and have us questioning the presence of God in our lives, and can really become a wrestling with Him. And I've watched you. We have a lot of mutual friends, so um, I've watched you through them and from afar navigate these things. And I know from your perspective, it might seem like it's not done well in the moment, but overall, I've watched how these things have grown your faith and just your willingness now to even just share your story, I think is a testament of God's goodness through your journey. And I wonder, Ashley, because you've walked through some of these things and you're still walking through some of these things,
Yeah.
what encouragement might you offer someone listening who's also just really who's struggling with things are not going the way I planned, things are not going the way I had hoped. How do I keep my faith? How do I press on for tomorrow? What kind of encouragement might you offer someone in that position?
Hmm. Gosh, well, I feel like I'm also finding myself telling myself some of these things even still because I currently find myself in an unexpected season of God called me to step away from my job a year and a half ago. And there's been a lot that the year and a half has been filled with of kind of a healing season post cancer treatment, um, helping lead a cancer retreat, and a few other things. But I'm also in, okay, Lord, what's next? I've been pursuing these different things, and I did not expect to still be here where I am a year and a half later.
Sure.
And in going back to God's that final hour performer, He has done that in other ways in my life where I have grown to trust Him 100% wholeheartedly. I just in this didn't expect Him to take me to the final hour of my finances with where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm.
And things are still a little dark in knowing, okay, what are those next steps? God's graciously planting some of those firefly seeds, if
Sure.
you will,
Uh-huh.
um, kind of like giving me little nuggets along the way, but I
Yeah.
don't have that full picture. And I think one of the things that cancer helped expose for me was that I didn't realize how fragmented my hope was because it was masked with optimistic endings and layered expectations on top of it. And so when people at large or at small didn't maybe show up the way that I expected because I saw it done this way with my parents, or something didn't go the way I anticipated, it gutted me. And no wonder it was hard to kind of keep up hope, because it was layered with growing list of disappointments and discouragement all along the way. And it got pretty dark. And in that, I, as much as I didn't want to see it, I realized my hope was in the wrong things. I mean, even walking and growing up in the church, being a believer my whole life, I was floored to learn and believe that my hope actually, when it came to that moment, wasn't in God. It wasn't where it was supposed to be. And so I've tried to reframe where and inspect my expectations. Where are they in? And what and who are they for? Because even within cancer or my jobless season or whatnot, or wherever anyone else is, the expectation is not actually in the outcome. It's not in the outcome being good. It is in God. It's expecting more of the things of God, keeping my eyes open to what are those ways that He is showing up or dropping nuggets in my day, to let me know of His presence that is there, His love that exists, His grace, that is freely given, that I need on a daily basis. And so I think too that when an unmet expectation comes, or something that I don't expect, I think space and permission to feel whatever those feelings are. Because if we don't actually address those feelings right away and let them be released and expressed, then they're stuffed, they're stifled, they're closed, shoved up in a box, put in the back corner of the closet of our hearts. And that's what continues to build deep disappointment or despair or darkness and heaviness in those seasons. And I think that, yeah, space to fully feel when those hit, and grace in that. I actually, so it was funny because I knew we were going to talk about expectations, and I was journaling something 2 weeks ago for this, and I went to go find it on my notes in my phone. I pulled up my notes. I have 115 notes in my phone with the word expect.
Oh, wow.
You're just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
If that doesn't show you that you're journeying through working on your
that's right.
expectations in life, I don't know what it is, but it brought me to actually, I remember a post that I shared. It was 2 weeks before COVID hit. I was supposed to, I had trained for a while to do a sprint triathlon out in the desert
Okay.
and go out to the desert on that day. And there's already waves that have started. But when it came to my wave starting, the gusts of wind that came up were so gnarly. It turned the lake in front of us into this white capped lake. And so they called the whole race. They called the other swimmers out of the water and completely called it off. And that was such a bummer. And what I didn't expect from that was I actually got hit way harder after that race than if I had done the race. And I didn't realize the exhaustion and the fatigue that hit me. I felt so guilty about it. I didn't know what to do with it because I felt like I didn't even do anything. But what I didn't realize was when you're training and preparing for something, I already did a lot of the mental, emotional, and physical work leading up to it. And now it just had nowhere to go. And so, what do we do when we have these built up preparation and training and work that we've poured into something that we're wanting in life, or looking to accomplish, or a project that we're looking to finish, or, and then those efforts don't get to be used for the purpose they were intended for. So it allowed me the opportunity to show myself grace. And I learned the difference between the effect of effort versus the finish line. And I think that in those spaces of what we don't expect, to give ourselves and others a little extra grace when we're mentally and physically recovering from a letdown.
Yeah. Yeah, those are really wise words. I heard so many little nuggets in there that I'm going to try to hold on to. But I think you started with just the faithfulness of God in those moments when you're really struggling with this moment that I'm in, taking a
Yeah.
moment to just remember how God has shown up in the past, and then that helps us to remember that He's with us in the now, and then to also inspect our expectations. I love that so much because I think I'm going to work on that moving forward of why am I expecting this particular thing, or really just spend some time thinking about that, because that understanding and unpacking that can really help put
Yeah.
a more sustainable frame around our expectations, and that they're not
Well,
always going to go the way we want them to, and that is probably best for
mhm,
us, for those of us that faith guides our steps, like, but that is
yeah.
probably the better story that's being told, and to yield to that sweet surrender of following
Mhm.
Jesus regardless of where he leads, and then to give ourselves grace through that whole process. I just think those were um and to give each other grace. I think that's what can be so challenging sometimes, which just makes me crazy. I can be the worst at it too, but just extending that grace to one another in all seasons is such a gift. I think that something that can really encourage us all to be mindful of that, when we're encountering with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, and even with God though, too, because I
Hmm.
love, um, I think it was Stephen Furtick who said this, um, at one point. Um, if God always meets my expectations, he would never have the opportunity to exceed them.
Hmm. Yeah, that's right.
And so believing the scriptures of God wants to do immeasurably more than we ask or
Hmm.
imagine. And maybe with what we have in front of us, it doesn't feel like that.
That's right.
God is always in that business
Hmm.
of exceeding our expectations. Gosh, I'm so glad I don't have a God who meets my
Right.
expectations
It'd
because
be so
he
small.
has already like given and provided
Yeah.
way more than I could have ever anticipated or imagined.
Yeah.
Because even for me, if I take cancer, I actually didn't expect the undoing that it did in me, where there are moments where I can actually see I was more a cancer to myself internally than the cancer was actually the one threatening my life. And I did not, I did not expect that at all. And it, it undid me in a beautiful way that I won't ever be the same in such a needed way where it it saved my life to be on a different path of approaching and journeying, not for the finish line, but for enjoying the journey and not for striving for perfection, but for being present and to allow the messiness of life to commingle and to exist all at once. And I I wasn't great at expressing feelings or emotions or letting the raw of a lot of my story show pre-cancer. And
Sure.
so I might not have been here
Yeah.
pre-cancer if
Yeah.
that was the case.
Yeah.
Um, but there is always something that is learned or is a gift in all hard moments because the valleys are where we grow. And that I know that that's cliche, but if we have the courage to see it in the midst of it, or the courage to look back and see it, that is where these moments of unexpected things in life aren't wasted.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, you're right.
there's always something that in all of our unmet expectations, God is either wanting us to experience and learn that we wouldn't be able to get or see in any other season but the one
Right.
that we're in. Or he's preserving time, or there's something else that is intended that we just don't see.
Yeah.
And for
There's
me,
always purpose behind it.
yeah, but when you're in it though, the trick of not saying that
Right.
to just minimize or dismiss the
Sure.
experience of, yep, there's purpose in this, God, I get it. Okay, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Because you still have to go through it. You still
Yeah.
have to,
You often don't see that purpose until
yeah,
later. Yes.
no.
You're
And he
right.
might give you nuggets in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
it. Because sometimes I think those can be like, what's the word? Is it platitudes? I
Uh-huh.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like things that are just kind of like said to help make
Mm-hmm.
the situation feel better.
Yeah.
Um,
Like a Hobby Lobby pillow stitched with like some kind of verse that's totally taken out of context. Yes, I know.
right.
I
Your
know.
child's going to be your testimony.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Okay.
Thanks. Doesn't help me right now when I'm in the middle of like
Exactly. Exactly.
my
But you're,
broken unmet expectations.
yes, you're absolutely right. In the moment, it doesn't always make sense, but it's in
Yeah.
the hindsight when you've lived the experience and you look back and you do see the hand of God in the valley and his close presence in the valley. But you're right, that often comes when you've
Yeah.
gotten through to the other side. Now, you mentioned this retreat that you hosted
Yeah.
for cancer survivors or those living with cancer currently. And I would love to talk about that with you because it's
Yeah.
such a great idea. I don't know if this kind of thing happens often, but I just loved when I heard that you and our friend Tim Timmons, also cancer is part of his story, and
Yeah.
Bob and Maria Goff at this beautiful retreat center that they have called the Oaks. We've talked about it on the podcast. Bob's been on. We've talked about
Okay.
the Oaks. Yeah, so fun. And
So,
what that place has meant just to me
yeah.
personally and to so many people. But can you share about this event that you did and the purpose behind it? And then are you doing any more?
Yes, yes, and yes. Um,
Okay. I
all
love it.
those. Um, yeah, I was first introduced to the Oaks. I went to a all women's retreat down there in June of 22. And
Okay.
so that for me was about 6 months post ending treatment. And I thought at that time, like I was doing good at processing all the things because I had never expressed or shared or felt or embraced as many emotions as I had over the last year.
Sure.
Um, but I had no clue how much was underneath the surface still. And when I arrived at the Oaks, I just oozed tears for no reason.
It
Nothing prompted them, nothing triggered them. I just
can do
started
that.
releasing these tears. And by the end of the retreat, I stood at, the living room, but it's just this
Mhm.
the common room gathering.
Yeah.
It's there. And I was talking with Maria, and I looked back at the room and thought to myself for the first time, what would this room look like if it was filled with cancer survivors? And so it was that moment that God gave me the dream to create what I had just experienced solely for anyone who's walked through cancer. I love the National Cancer Institute definition of survivor, which is from the moment you're diagnosed through the duration of life. So you don't have to wait till you're done with treatment or wait till your 2, 5, or 10-year mark to be cancer free or to be a survivor. You are already a survivor because you're surviving today. And so um, that dream was also very unexpected
Yeah.
um, for me because God usually gives me a word each year. And my word for the year was dream when I
Mm.
was diagnosed. And I
Mm.
was like, how do I dream now? And I just was like so frustrated. But what
Yeah.
I didn't realize was that my dream of becoming more intimate with the Lord, that actually came true
Mm.
that year. Um, and then the dream for this retreat happened. And fast forward 6 months after that, I engaged in conversation because I wanted to create a space for people to just unplug and breathe, to get out in nature and creation with God, to find hope and healing and laughter within their journey, because sometimes you just need help re-triggering wonder and whimsy and unlocking some of those things in your life after journeying through any capital T level trauma.
Yeah. Sure.
It could be losing someone, it could be, you know, loss of anything else really.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's also nothing like bringing together common people that have experienced the same thing.
That's
And
right.
so
Yeah.
I really protected it to be only survivors for that first one.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it last year and it was unbelievable.
Mm.
I didn't know what to expect, but
Sure.
talk about God exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
It was beyond anything we could have imagined. And it was
Mm.
such sacred ground and special space of watching how God so intricately and specifically met everyone exactly where they were at
Mm-hmm.
and in major ways.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
people found tears for the first time in 50 years for themselves. Someone hadn't looked in the mirror in a year and finally found the courage to do that. Someone else was in a dark spot and was thinking about ending their life before coming. And then at the end of it, they decided they no longer wanted to throw it away.
Mm.
And so it
That's
was
big
just,
stuff.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to still put into words and talk about sometimes
Sure.
because, we all, when you go through a physical medical thing, so much of your energy is spent towards physically healing that the mental and spiritual and emotional sides of things kind of just get backburnered. But they're oftentimes the most tender parts of anyone's journey, because just because cancer treatment ends doesn't mean the journey doesn't end. And so finding that opportunity to help unlock where is each individual at, what do they need, and also unlocking what are you still here for? Because God has also still kept you here for such a time as this. And kind of helping look at both of those things. And so, yes, the answer is growing to create more of these opportunities for people. So there is another one that will be coming up this year. I am not able to share details yet as
Sure.
they are being finalized.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
there will
Yeah.
be
Well,
more.
folks can follow along with the Oaks because on Instagram or their webpage, because they do such a good job of sharing the upcoming events and that kind of thing. But I love so much that you did that, Ashley. And I think what a gift you've given
Mhm.
for others, and alongside Tim as well. Like he just
Yeah. Oh,
oozes gift and grace to
honestly,
people.
it absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I was so honored to partner with Tim and Bob and Lynn and Taylor. It could not have been done without them. I mean, that was just a complete God show,
Yeah.
because from the moment of the first conversation to the retreat happening, it was only 4 months.
Yeah. Wow.
And that only happens through
Yeah.
God. And I was just so grateful and so touched that he would want to use me
Yeah.
um to do that and
Hmm.
partner with everybody that I did, because it wouldn't have happened without them either. And
Yeah.
so
Sure.
it was a team thing.
I was at the Oaks a month before you. Just
Oh, you
was when I
were?
went to a writer's workshop. Yeah, same year, just in May.
Oh, so
So
fun.
yeah, I love it there. It is such a peaceful place. So, well, Ashley, I just have two final questions for you.
Yeah.
These are two questions I ask all my guests. But
Yeah.
the first one is, and I know it might be a challenge just to narrow it down to one, but just one. Based on your experience, of just your life, just the life experiences that you've had, what do you know to be absolutely true about God?
Mm, how faithful he is.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's faithful to be present. He's faithful to love. He's faithful to always, always pull through, no matter what curveballs are thrown. When I look back at all the things that he's brought me through, or all the miracles that I have witnessed in my life, um, it's that faithfulness and his consistency um, that continues to remind me how loved I am.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's so good. The
Yeah.
faithfulness of God. What final question? What or who? Where I mean, where are you finding your joy in this season? Who's bringing you joy? Where are you finding your joy in this season?
Oh, that is a great question, and a two-part question, or I guess a two-part answer, where I'm holding both, because I think in discovering recently, I've been feeling a little bit numb. And so an undercurrent of joy has been hard to feel. But my days or my weeks hasn't been without joy. And so there's spurts of joy that are natural, and this has been a joy. My nephews are a huge source of joy for me. Anytime I can get outside and enjoy nature or do some sort of activity or adventure,
Mm-hmm.
uh, connecting and having quality conversation, loving on someone who needs it in their space. Those are a lot of things that bring me joy, despite being in a place where I don't feel the undercurrent of joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's great. Leave it to those little ones to bring all the joy. I mean,
Yes.
so many people answer that. I love it so much. It's like, oh, my kids, my grandkids, my niece and nephew.
Yeah.
It's so true. But very wise words today, Ashley. And I truly am so grateful to know you and to have known you since,
Thanks.
Mexicali. And what a gift you have just been to my life. And so thank you so much for taking time today to share a little bit of your story. I fully trust that God is going to continue to walk with you in every step of what's to come. And I'm just grateful to be one that gets to watch from the sidelines, watch the goodness. So thank you so much for your
Stop watching
kindness.
from the sidelines. Just let's jump in.
Okay, well, get on a plane and come visit me. I would love that so much. But thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. I'm just truly grateful for you, and I just appreciate you so much.
Same. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to just engage in conversation, and I cherish you as well. So thank you.